4:32 call to order. I'm going to do a roll call first, guys.
Sure. Linda Bushbaum.
Here.
Catherine Cox.
Here.
Callie Cordova.
Here.
Michael Delafrey.
Here.
Bruce Katuna.
Here.
Tom Kurtz.
Here.
Bob Lee.
Here.
And absent so far is Bruce Montgomery and Catlin Keenan.
Okay. Do we have any public to be heard? Looks like no. And then, has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes from April 16th? Do anyone see anything that needs to be corrected or amended?
Recommend they're accepted.
Tom moves to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Michael, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes. And I think we're ready for accessions.
Just a couple. The first one, so Susan Wise, you might recognize that name because I believe last month we voted on some photos of her parents' farm out on Nelson and 63rd. They had a sheep farm for many years over there, but before they got into sheep farming, they had a chinchilla farm at 1600 Hygiene Road, now 17th Street. And I had told her any pictures of buildings I'm interested in, because we're always having people wanting to do property research. So she included 7 photos of that house. It is technically still there, but is unrecognizable because it has been added on to many, many times. They're kind of fun 1950s photos too.
What's
And-
the cross street on 17th? Like,
Huh?
How far, where on 17th is that? Like, what's
I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
It's not like in like near Old Town. It's fairly far out to the west.
Okay.
I think back then it was really sort of out in the middle of nowhere.
Mm.
And then before they got into the chinchilla farming, when they first moved to Longmont, they lived at 809 Judson Street. So she had one photo of that house. And if you look that up today, it has not changed very much at all. The next one was a doorstep donation. Someone just left these 2 photos at the front desk. We have a lot of pictures of Cheaper Charlie's shed, but we don't have one with these particular writings on them. So I figured might as well add them to the collection. And then the third one, Maggie, who works at the front desk, her grandfather passed away, and in his things she found 4 photographs of the Great Western Sugar Factory, included 2 scans. Some of them are pretty faded, but it shows the foundation of the sugar factory being placed. These were not photos that we had seen before. And then this great photo of the workers posing. And 5 electrotypes that have these little metal plates that are engraved with imagery. And it came in these little envelopes that had Slim's Cold and Feed and their address on it. So they were probably used for some kind of marketing publication, maybe a newspaper ad or something like that, or labels. So with such a direct connection, we decided to take this.
I looked up on Google Maps. It's 17th and Francis.
Okay.
Not as far west. But that in the 50s still would have been pretty rural.
Oh,
right?
totally rural. Rural until 62. Okay.
That was featured in the news recently.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know who Ron is? Does Ron keep on rocking me on the show?
What was it?
Ron. Keep on rocking.
Oh, yeah.
We can put it out there to the internet and see if someone will admit to being Ron or being the one who painted Ron.
See Jim Hansen behind it.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to try to like sequence the photos based on, you know, if you can see Jim Henson before Ron.
Well, yeah, it's got Jim Hansen right
And yeah, it shows how much this building changed because we compared it to the other photos we have in the collection. It's like totally different community.
Then 18 years before that, someone got married.
Where was Cheaper Charlie showed again, Eric?
9th and Hover on the northwest corner, I believe.
East,
Northeast?
yes.
Wait, so where that like retirement home is now?
Across
If it's
the
on
street.
east, it'd be across the street.
Oh, okay.
And there's a subdivision.
So southeast corner then.
So there's
Sorry,
any more
I'm
of those
sorry,
subdivisions
actually,
on
no.
like 3 of the 4 corners.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No. I'll move to approve the accessions.
All in favor? Unanimous?
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Bruce Katina.
Thank you.
Ready for my report? So a lot has happened on museum expansion in the last month. I think at the last meeting, I kind of talked about how we were working through some things. We've been able to work through those. So we got the bid back from construction companies in March, and the low bid was pretty much right exactly what we had available. We had also had some options for some add-ons, some alternates in construction terms. And one of them that seemed very appealing was to add almost 1,000 square feet onto our new gallery. The cost for that was about a little under $200,000. And that was something I thought might be appealing to the Stewart Family Foundation. So called them up and said, we've got this opportunity, we've got the bids in, we think we can build the base building, but for $200,000 we would get 1,000 more square feet of gallery, which would be a pretty significant addition to what we were trying to do. And they saw the logic in that and agreed to contribute. It was basically $190,000 from the Stewart Family Foundation and $12,000 from Jim Newcomb, the chief trustee of the foundation. So things were looking really good. We were excited. And then, as you recall, the tariff conversations started to really heat up right around then. And city leadership became very concerned that we needed to set aside significantly more contingency than we had previously. The construction bids had included 15% contingency based on the advice of our architects and our construction managers. They had said, for adding on to an existing building, we feel like a 15% contingency is adequate. But with the tariffs, city leadership felt we needed to add 10% more on top of that, which would be, that would have been about $600,000. We really felt like we've kind of tapped out every source we can think of at this point. But ironically, we had a meeting scheduled with the Stewart Family Foundation to discuss naming rights, because we had committed to having them name the Children's Gallery. So in that meeting, we're like, well, we've hit this roadblock of we need to come up with another $600,000 ideally, and the So we don't really feel like we can in good conscience be talking naming rights when we don't necessarily have a building we can be adding on to right now. And it's kind of blown away by their response, which was, well, if you got that money, could you proceed? And I was like, well, yes, we could, but I thought it was pretty clear that you were done, you were out, you had nothing more. And they were like, well, we want this project to succeed. So they said, we could contribute $400,000 if there's a way to find some additional money. And the city basically said, well, okay, after looking in more detail at a lot of what is going to get, a lot of the construction materials and things are provided locally. And so, we're comfortable with a 7% contingency, which is around $400,000. So, between all of that, and then we've kind of got a further backup of some museum reserves in this museum services fund. So, with all of that, the city leadership agreed to go forward. So, incredible thanks to the Stewart Family Foundation.
Exactly.
We would not have been able to move forward without that contribution. So, so we're in the midst now of getting the contract. It's in purchasing. They're working on getting it signed, and then we'll be able to sit down with the contractor and start really laying out. They've, I'm sure, got timelines, and we'll be able to be sharing those timelines. But we are still working through the City Design Review Committee. That piece, the architects submitted last week. We should, by the end of today, so maybe I've been in meetings all afternoon, I haven't checked my email, we might have had the city saying, okay, here is the timeline on that, but usually it's about 30 days from the day that they accept that submittal to when we get the okay. And we feel pretty good about, we've been back and forth with the last sort of issue that we were dealing with, which is drainage. So we're hopeful that that will be resolved, and 30 days from today they will say, yes, we're approving everything, and then there are a few more steps to go through to kind of formalize that approval. And so construction start date probably is pushed back a little bit into July, but hopefully not past that. So that's where we are on expansion. Under exhibitions, they're continuing to work on the development of the children's gallery. The exhibit in that gallery we're calling the Dream Lab, kind of talking about how it's the idea of children's dreams and imaginations. And so I can see some of the things that they're working on. There's lots of things going on there.
So are you going to close down the current exhibits a little later now? Or?
We've decided, so we extended the Picasso exhibit by 3 weeks when we knew we were, but we're seeing already, even with the extension, it's really hard to get the word out that time. So we've seen a drop off in our attendance this week now that we can get out the word. It's the last week, so we're seeing it pick back up. But we will be closing everything down next week, and that gives us a chance to get everything cleared out and really be out of the way of any construction, hopefully. So yeah, this Sunday will be the last day for both Picasso and from yeah.
I might have to tell someone. But
Yeah.
So they can do their water work before.
If you have come by in the last few weeks, we've had either the talk backboard, which used to be Cheaper Charlie's shed in the Front Range Rising, or we've had volunteers asking folks, and I think the most universal response is the water table cannot go. So when we reopen, once we get the history exhibit up and running, which will be a little bit later, probably December before that one opens up. But I can say, I think we're pretty certain we'll have a water table of one sort or another.
Okay, it won't be
That
gone forever.
exhibit. It won't be gone forever,
won't be
but,
guilty of having never let them say goodbye.
yeah. Other questions about expansion or exhibitions?
What company is it that's building?
I think I can,
Oh.
actually, I
Sure.
probably not until the contract is actually signed. Purchasing doesn't usually let us announce that until the contract is signed. So.
Eric, could you refresh my memory, how many more square feet now with the addition of thousands of feet?
The 7,360 something.
That's close.
Yeah.
Close. Okay, thank you.
And then the $590,000 is the extra 400,000 they're chipping in, and then are they also funding the extra 1,000 feet?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they had said that was something they wanted to do. In fact, we sort of broached, well, could you maybe put this toward, instead of salving the project, and they were like, you need a bigger gallery, you should do the whole thing, so, yeah.
What percent of the capital campaign is the Stewart family?
About
Is it like totally wrong?
60-some% of it.
Okay.
So, yeah, incredibly fortunate. And also it's great that we've got, another significant additional contributions from the community, and we're not, closing out the campaign. We're going to continue raising funds for exhibitions, at least through the Sunset Soiree in September.
Do we have a date for the sunset?
September 5th, that's a Friday.
Weekend after Labor Day.
Yeah.
And it's on a Friday this year.
Yeah, the big Rhythm at Roosevelt City Festival got moved to September 6th for weather and other reasons, and having two big city events on the same day seemed a little not the best idea, so we moved our soiree to Friday night. All right. We will move on to collections. So if you have anything you want to highlight in the collections report?
Well, Eric and I attended the Colorado-Wyoming Association of Museum Conference up in Greenway, which was great. I gave free presentations and got to mingle with a lot of local museums in the area. I also went to my first ever Society of Rocky Mountain Archivists conference. Apparently it was the most well-attended conference in years. And learned a little bit about emergency planning. And our internship was a big switch with interns and volunteers, so there's a lot going on. And we will be taking down everything from Picasso and Front Range Rising, which is a big project. So Eileen and I are working on that, and we'll be bringing all the objects that are on view in Front Range Rising right now over to the MCC.
Elizabeth, did you say emergency planning?
Yes,
What
we're
kind of
working on.
emergencies are?
We're working on updating our emergency planning document, which is a few years out of date now. Emergencies can be anything from fire, flood, shootings, anything that endangers the museum, the personnel, or the collections. Of course, that conference and my role is very collections focused. But yeah, especially in living in a state with floods and fires. So yeah, making sure that we're all on the same page and know what to do in case of emergency.
And isn't one of the pieces that you still need to
Yep.
apply for, I forget the name of the.
Accreditation to the
Accreditation.
American Alliance of Museums. Yeah, that's kind of the last piece that really needs updating. I think we are going to revisit everything. I've been learning more about what they're looking for. And it's like, okay, all of our documents probably need a little brush up before we're ready to go forward. But the emergency plan is significantly outdated, and so that's been Elizabeth Beaudoin and then Elizabeth Myers, who's our operations manager, are kind of the two that are working on that one to get it updated. And one of the things that Elizabeth has talked about is one of the most dangerous times for a museum is during construction, because there's welding going on and there's piping being cut, and so it's a really timely thing that we'll be talking about as a staff soon about, okay, we need to be really aware of what our emergency responses are. Luckily, we don't actually have that much collections in this building anymore, and we'll have even less once we move the Front Range Rising artifacts out. But we still have all of the archives here, so that will be something we'll definitely want to make sure is well protected before construction starts. Moving on to education. Just note our summer camps will start week after next, first week of June. We've still got some space available in some of our camps, so if you know anyone that has kids between 5 and 12 and they're looking for a great experience this summer, you can check out our camp availabilities. For art in public places, every year we change out some of the what they're called art on the move sculptures that are around town. This year, because we had some staffing transitions in art in public places, we decided to leave most of them in place, but we swapped around a few that were either needed some repair and so it was better to replace them, or one that we had to deinstall because of a construction project. So it got reinstalled in another location. That's that butterfly within a butterfly that's now in Kensington Park. Under the auditorium programming, I think one of the things that we really learned from the Picasso exhibit is how great it is to have an exhibit that there's just a lot of different interesting spin-offs we can do, because our auditorium programming was just hugely successful and it tied into different aspects of Picasso. So some of it, we had a program on 20th century French music, and we had programs on Picasso himself, and just a whole lot of things that were tied in, and the public really responded very strongly to those. So
Picasso guitars in here.
yeah, and we did art sips related to Picasso. So just is a great lesson for us. We've done that in the past, but this one we really leaned into it really strongly, and the public responded very well. So you can see in the gallery attendance and ticket sales. In April we almost doubled our auditorium ticket sales compared to April of a year ago. And that was just people being excited about Picasso. Under development, I've already mentioned the Sunset Soiree, Friday, September 5th. Tickets will go on sale July 14th. And our biggest need right now is still, we're still looking for anybody that might be willing to sponsor wine. One of the things that we try to do is get donated alcohol. So it's usually pretty straightforward to get donated beer because there's so many great breweries in Longmont. But
Have you tried Wyatt's? Is your sponsorship person tried Wyatt's?
they have, I think that what we can't get a sponsorship from is from a distributor. It has to be directly from the winery. So in past years we've had folks just donate money directly, and that may be the direction we go again. So someone is willing to, just donate funds for wine, that's another option as well.
And I get an acknowledgement of like, this guy bought you all, everyone drinks today.
So we are happy to acknowledge, the
What was our
sponsors.
wine bill last year? Just curious.
Don't know, but I will find out and send that all to you.
Because do you have, like, as a distillery done a
I
sponsorship?
think we do have we have a distillery,
Okay.
but
Some other multiple now.
yeah.
Usually, like a liquor store will have something called cooperative advertising, where they work with the winery,
Okay.
and they might be able to funnel that person to the right.
Okay. All right.
vineyard.
Check and see. Visitor services, I already mentioned the success of Picasso and the auditorium programs generally. I also see it carries over into things like gift shop sales. If you look at page 4, more people in here, they're buying more things in the gift shop, so revenue goes up. Welcome, Susie.
I need to clean up my classroom and the tag got away from me. I gotta go.
Under marketing, so one of the messages that we're really trying to share broadly is that even though when Picasso closes, our galleries will close for renovation, that our programs will continue. So we'll still have summer concerts, we'll still have our fall Thursday evening at the museum, we'll still have discovery days, we'll still have the art and sip, that it's really just the galleries that will be closed down. So there'll still be lots going on at the museum, but it will be a little different experience because you won't be just able to walk in anytime you want. The museum will only be open for programs. Now when we have discovery days in the fall, it's on a good bit of Tuesday through Saturday, so people will be able to walk in a good bit, but weekends, the museum generally won't be open. Sundays, really not much at all, but staff will still be here, we'll all still be working on things. Our exhibit staff will be hard at work building the exhibits for the children's gallery, so we won't be sending everybody home until construction is done. We'll still be working.
Is the treehouse closing or?
The treehouse will stay open for discovery days.
So you get that free with the discovery day?
Yeah, and that will be one of the new perks of discovery days is free admission to the treehouse.
Everyone's the front desk person going up there and checking everyone and getting out.
So yeah, and then right now our thought, we're still sort of trying to figure out then the future of the treehouse after we open, but in kind of our preliminary discussions is that probably once we get the children's gallery up and running and our exhibit staff have a chance to catch a breath, is that we would then redo that third floor space as more of a lounge, less of a kid's space, since we've got the big children's gallery, and just be a space for anybody that wants to go up and kind of have a great view and sit there and do a little work, use the free Wi-Fi, things like that. But we'll also kind of look, I think, when we first open and sort of see if the treehouse continues to be really popular or if it's pretty much now everybody's going to the children's gallery and it's kind of quiet up there and it's to be rethought.
I know there's binoculars up there. I could imagine a kind of cool exhibit where it was like that and then and now thing. You've got like a picture of what
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that we actually have, when this building was built, we had a photographer take photos of what
Oh.
everything was at that time. So yeah, it'd be fun to bring those out. Those, pretty sure those are accessions. The photographer is Michael Gray.
Oh, they're under Michael Gray, okay.
Yeah.
I know we have a lot of pictures of the site before they built the building.
And it's a different one than all his black and whites because of their, we had him do color ones for this. So, yeah,
That will
fun.
be good.
Because like that whole subdivision there wasn't there. All the Harvest Junction shopping center, that wasn't
Oh,
there.
that'd be cool.
So yeah, it'd be fun to see those. Have some new ones taken. What it looks like now. And then last under Director's report, we had our Volunteer Appreciation Week, and just wanted to extend my appreciation for everything that you all do, for your support and thoughts of the museum and your role as ambassadors of the museum out in the community. We appreciate what you're doing to support the museum. Thank you.
And then I do not have a report, but I think we are looking for a recommendation from the nominating committee.
So usually in the past, when we've had nominating committee recommendations, we've asked the folks that are in the room who are have applied to step out, so we can have a discussion if needed. While they're willing to do that.
Oh yeah, take your water for sure.
The courtyard's open if you all wanna.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sunshades up today. This view of the mountain is just so lovely, like watching the sun change.
So Kat and I are on the nominating committee, and we interviewed. There are 3 positions available. There were 4 candidates. 2 of them are returning board members. Kat can't be here, so sort of speaking for both of us, we largely agreed on it. One of the things we weren't sure about is whether or not we need to look solely at interviews, or if we could take into account the fact that we've worked with people before and we're familiar with their skills and abilities based on that. Ultimately, the 3 that we'd like to recommend are Sheila. She has actually been here recording for us, so she's very familiar with her, or worked through that. And then the 2 existing board members. And one of the things that influenced that decision, there was another candidate, Paul, who did have a lot of relevant experience. Nothing specifically with like advisory boards, but he has a lot of event planning experience and managing large budgets. I understand that previously Sheila had applied and was not selected, but Eric had a conversation with her and encouraged her to apply again in the future. And based on our nominations, that worked out well for her. So we'd like to do the same thing with Paul. Partially because that will allow us to continue to have talent for longer. Like if we went with Paul or some board members, for example, they'd be unlikely to return any year they went this late. So yeah, lots of good talent. But that was our ultimate recommendation. Happy to answer any questions if you want more detail to that. But
Be nice for Sheila to be on it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that she
Yes,
was
we
excellent in the interview. that
we
did.
interviewed her last year, and you.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't realize. I realized in the middle of the interview. But yes. And thank you to Eric for willing to have a potentially difficult conversation. So appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great conversation last year with Sheila, and I've met Paul before, and so hopefully he will respond similarly with just, I think yeah, he brings a lot. He actually has a lot of performing arts experience as well. So Really interesting.
What kind of performance?
He's actually run some pretty major performing arts centers. He's now retired, but still is involved in performing arts centers around the country. So, brings a skill set that we don't have, but I think we've got 3 great candidates, really 4 great candidates. So that's.
Was he the one that attended our meeting maybe a couple, 2
He
months
was not,
ago?
no.
Okay. I just remember there was somebody sitting in the back.
Mhm. Yeah, that person did not ultimately apply.
Do you want to recommend, do you want
So I think we would need a
Motion.
motion from the
Yeah,
board.
we need a motion, like, per candidate, what would be?
Trying to remember. I would think we could do,
to, well, you're kind of
Slate.
presenting a slate, aren't
Slate.
you?
I think we can do the slate.
We can do the
Okay.
slate?
So should I motion as the nomination? Okay.
Sure.
Cool. I motion that we nominate Kathy Cox, Linda Bushbaum, and Sheila Conway.
Second from Tom. All in favor? That is unanimous. And is that enough of a quorum without
Yep,
the
I think
waivers?
we're good.
Cool.
Great.
Come back
Thank you.
today.
Can we tell them how to do it?
I mean, it's,
It's in the-
To go
Right,
to.
yeah, but
City
we can
Council
tell-
has the final authority on this.
Do we have any other new business that needs to be?
I just have a question. Was anybody able to attend the Friends of
On that
the
new meeting.
Museum last week or the week before?
Didn't have anybody, and my apologies again for the short notice. Their next meeting will not be until August.
Do you have a date?
Um, We could pull that up. August 7th at noon.
That'll be a Thursday still.
Yeah.
I'll double check my calendar. There's a good chance that I could do that.
And then I will also let you all know, I don't have a date solidified yet, but I would like to do an all-day planning retreat with kind of museum leadership staff and a representative from each of our boards. So advisory board, Friends board, and Art and Public Places Commission, looking at probably the end of August, because that's kind of a good time for we're in between program seasons, and so when I've got a date for that, I will send that out, and hopefully a representative from this board can attend that. I know it's a lot to be in an all-day meeting, but since we're at a point where a lot of the things that were kind of unknowns and uncertain are now like, okay, we actually have a date when construction, by then we will be under construction, and then we will know exactly what the building is going to look like and things like that. So I think it's a really good time to do a planning retreat to look at the next couple years for the museum.
Do we have any other board questions, comments? Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn? Bruce, second, Catherine?